Hey everybody, it's day 4. I'm not feeling as good today. My migraine's trying to come back. But I did finish Purity by Jackson Pearce, and I liked it more than I expected I would. I always go into books open, but it's just because, you know, I didn't pick this book out. It was sent to me in like a book box. I never thought about it, and here we are. So I actually enjoyed it. I will say there were some issues, but this was published in 2012, so I would say the publishing market is a little bit different now in 2018 going into 2019 than it was back then. This type of book would be probably edited and written differently. For a book that's about the concept of purity and the main character Shelby trying to lose her virginity before this purity ball with her dad, it's got a lot of slut shaming and use of the word whore. It's a little bit redeemed by the end because Shelby realizes that she's been hypocritical. By the time we reached that point, I felt like it was not enough. It was not enough to like say that. Like, I don't know, I didn't feel like the character really reached the impact of that. Like, shit, I've been a hypocritical person and thinking that all these other women are sluts and whores for wanting sex when I've been out here trying to have meaningless sex when I don't necessarily want to, just for a vow that it was kind of weird overall in concept. It would have these strangely like feminist moments where it would call out sexist aspects, but then it was also being very sexist towards men. And I was like, in the beginning it was in small ways that I noticed, but then because Shelby's trying to lose her virginity, it's with these different men, and it was rubbing me the wrong way. I don't know. It just ended up being weird about it. Like, if the boys didn't want to sleep with Shelby, she's like, what's wrong with you? Or they were being very kind of stereotypical and saying, don't be surprised if boys don't want to use condoms, and there was just a lot of stuff. And like, even her best friend was just being very weird and not exactly controlling, but he was helping her with the plan, and he was like, no, you really should just, you know, your first time needs to be with somebody you love. And he was kind of making it weird. Like, he was being supportive, but at the same time I was like, dude, it's her decision. And just, I guess, like, the concept overall, I was like, I guess I'm okay with it, but some of the execution was a little weird. And I liked Shelby's dad. I liked a lot of their relationship. It was awkward and strained because Shelby had these promises that she made to her mom, and she kind of lived by these promises to like listen and obey her father, and she kind of lived by that promise and just lived by making loopholes. And that's kind of the premise of this book. It's iffy, but I kind of liked where it was going. And there was a moment near the end where they're getting close to the ball. Shelby and her dad are getting closer, and I really liked that. And there was a time where they're filling out a questionnaire and they're supposed to go over the answers together. One of the questions is like, will you help your daughter to live a pure life? And he puts a question mark underneath, and it confuses Shelby because the narrative basically is like, oh, like he won't help her. And the resolution to that is that he wasn't sure if she wanted his help. And I was like, okay, that's good. Like, I liked the resolution to their relationship. I still would have wanted more. Like, I liked I liked their relationship. There was some revelations at the end that I would have wanted a little bit more, like a few more scenes to actually round it off. But regarding that type of question, I was hoping that when he'd put that kind of question mark, that it almost would have been going toward a place of like questioning the purity, I guess, aspect of maybe the dad going, that's not my decision. Like, I'll be here for Shelby if that's what she wants. It's her life, it's her body. It's not my decision to make, because it was made pretty obvious that he's not exactly religious. Shelby's not exactly religious. They don't go to church. Like, they might have faith, they might be some sort of Christian. They're not necessarily like practicing. And it's just, it was interesting. So I was kind of hoping it was going in that aspect of like the dad being like, yeah, that's not where it went. Which is okay, but to me I was almost like, that'd be nice if that's where it went, if the dad was like, because obviously I don't think that purity part was really part of it, because he didn't seem to care. Like, he didn't seem to care that she was dating or the boys were coming to the house. Like, he never really had any conversations with her about it. Like they brought it up once, like the no sex before marriage, but then that was it. Like, I'm not really a religious person. You know, this book was good, like, because it brought up a lot of the questions that perhaps a religious teenager might have, especially one who is struggling with their faith. And I thought it was good in that respect. A lot of the notions of purity and sex and like the feminist aspects, it was trying. It was trying. It was almost there. Again, written and published in 2012, so it was almost there. The ending was really rushed. I feel like it needed more. So, you know, Shelby's realizing the hypocrisy of her whole journey and the fact that she's basically been slut-shaming all women in her mind, despite what she's been doing in this book. And then she was being very judgmental even of the girls, that she wasn't slut-shaming, she was just judgmental. Even of the girls who, just because they were cheerful and peppy. And I was like, I do dislike the overly judgmental characters, especially when they're like that for no reason, no apparent reason. They're just, I'm like, okay. So she did kind of see the hypocrisy of her stuff, I guess. I didn't feel the impact of that reading it, and I feel like the ending needed to support that more. And I feel like the ending needed more resolution between her and her dad. And there's like the whole subplot between her and her feelings for the boy that she ends up realizing she loves. And I saw that coming from, like, I don't know, page 30, probably a little bit earlier, but by then I was like, oh, it's one of those, which is fine. Not exactly my cup of tea, but I was like, fine. But I knew where it was going. Despite that, it was not a storyline that was set up. I just was expecting it. There was like a couple sentences here and there that were foreshadowing it, but the actual subplot, the meat of it, was not there. It was not there for me. Like, I was just sitting there expecting it because I foresaw it happening. But as someone, like, when you're sitting there like expecting characters to get together, it's like, no. You're not sitting there going, oh yeah, those characters have feelings for each other. No, it was not that. But I liked them, so it didn't bother me. I just wanted more. And I wanted more from them by the end of it too. Like, they also got wrapped up really fast, and I was like, okay. I liked the characters, and I liked the voice. It was very fun to read, despite the fact that grief and Shelby grieving over the loss of her mom is a big part of it. The story overall feels fairly lighthearted. I really enjoyed that. Like, it made me laugh a couple times. I ended up enjoying it way more than I expected to, and I'm struggling to give it a rating because like, I guess I'd probably give it 3.5 because it wasn't quite there for me. I did really enjoy the characters, the writing style, the voice. It was all very good. And it was very quick, short, easy read. Overall, I did like it. Yeah, 3.5, almost 4 stars because some of the elements I find a little bit more problematic, but trying. The heart was in the right place, I guess, though. So 3.5 for me, I think. I would definitely give Jackson Pearce's other books a try because I did really enjoy her writing style and her characters and development. I'm a big resolution person. I feel like you can always wrap things up, and that especially for contemporaries where they're standalones and they need to be wrapped up. Alright, I'm probably gonna go take a nap because I gotta go take some of my migraine pills or something because it just, oh, I hate when I start to feel like this because my head just starts to hurt and everything starts to hurt, but we'll see. I still have 3 more days and I want to read Rust and Stardust, and I don't know if I'm going to read Running with Lions now just because I do want to read Rust and Stardust. I might just swap those out, but yeah. I'm gonna go and I will check back in with you guys once I've done some more reading. Bye. Hey everybody, it's day 5 and I'm better than yesterday. So I've started reading Rust and Stardust. I'm not very far. I'm like a third of the way through maybe, and I like it so far. It's got kind of a literary, lyrical style to it, but the writing's also very, I wouldn't say dry, but it's telling, very telling. And that happens with a lot of literary styles, I've noticed. So this is kind of the true story of the abduction of Sally Horner by Frank LaSalle, and basically like the 2 years that she was held captive by him. And it's fictional. It's inspired by her true story, but this is not like a true crime story. It's fictionalized. A lot of the characters inside are made up, and so far the story is just, I feel like it's trying to focus on the effects of the abduction. It's told from multiple point of views. You get Sally, her mom, her sister, multiple strangers, people she meets along the way. They all get points of view throughout the book. It's like the focus is on how Sally's abduction has affected people she meets along the way as Frank takes her across the country, and also the people that she's left behind at home. So it's kind of more about that and how Sally survives and how she finds moments of light in the darkness of these 2 years, the people who try to help her along the way, that kind of stuff. But even though it's telling, a little bit disconnected because of the third person and the multiple point of views, it's still tragic and heartbreaking and painful to read. It's a dark book and it's hard to read. So it's a little bit slow going, but it's also, like, I also kind of can't put it down because I just want to keep reading. So I do like it for that. I do kind of know a little bit about Sally Horner and her story, so I do know a little bit about how it's going to end. I'm just looking forward to how the author plays the story out, because obviously she's fictionalizing a lot of it, and I kind of like that. I like that the author is putting imagination into it, I guess, and giving it more character and making it about Sally's journey, I guess, and her survival. What Frank does to her while she's with him is not really the point. That's kind of glossed over, and it's never written about in detail, which I'm thankful for. And the effects on Sally are obvious, but you kind of get to see Sally start to grow and learn, even as it's weird. It's a weird relationship because Frank is taking care of her for 2 years, but manipulating and abusing her, and it's just, it's hard to read, but Sally just keeps trying to find these moments of light and friendship, people to love, or anything really everywhere she goes, and it's just it's heartbreaking. And to know that it is a true story, even if this specific account is not the true story, that this did happen to this girl, and that this kind of story happens to so many people, so many children. It just breaks my heart. So I'm gonna keep reading, I guess. See where it gets me. Hello everybody. Contemporary-a-thon is officially over. And it's like Monday the day after, and I went to go edit all my footage and I realized I did not finish filming. I didn't do my wrap-up. So here I am, trying to get my life and my act together, alright? So, I did finish reading Rust and Stardust over the last 2 days, and it was really good. It was really heartbreaking and hard to read, but I did enjoy it, I guess. I feel like that's kind of weird to say for the type of story it was, but I did enjoy it. It was gripping, and I felt for Sally and all of the characters, and just, yeah, it was tragic. Yeah, I'd probably give this 5 stars, 4.5, 5 stars, just because the story is telling. So the emotional impact for me comes from the tragedy of the situation, more so than the actual narration, because everything is very, just a little bit distant for this type of story, which I feel like is maybe a little bit necessary. It's okay, it worked, and it was still very touching, very engrossing, and I definitely, by the time I hit the halfway mark, I just kept reading, I could barely put the book down. So it was really working for the story, and I felt really bad for Sally, and I just really wanted to strangle Frank. So just for me, the writing style is kind of the only drawback, even though I also loved it in a way, because it's how the story is told. It is the vehicle for this narrative. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting this narrative, and I enjoyed the story, as heartbreaking as it was. There's a lot. I don't really want to spoil it for anybody if people don't know what the story is. Yeah, obviously content warnings for child abduction and sexual assault and sexual abuse, even though that is very glossed over. It's not written about in detail. It is obvious that that is what is happening here. So that is a very big content warning. They're like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of talk of suicide because Sally's stepfather committed suicide. So that's kind of a big subplot in here because he is discussed a lot in this book. I kind of like that because they don't name it, but he more than likely had depression, or he could have been bipolar or something along those lines, because he had these huge depressive moments where he could not get out of bed, and then he would bounce back up and be all happy and joyous and dancing again before he would go back down to his low. And it was very interesting to see that representation in the setting of the late 40s, early 50s. I liked that inclusion, and he was a big part of the story despite not actually being around for most of the story. So I liked that there was representation for that, even though it wasn't really named, and there was I don't know, there was a lot of good stuff in here, and I liked that a lot of Sally's family and the kind of parental figures that she encountered along the way on this harrowing journey tried to help her. Even though they might not have necessarily known what was going on, they tried to help her. And sometimes there were missed connections or missed opportunities, but just, I know this is mostly fictionalized, but sometimes that still got me, where I was like, people trying to help this poor young girl. It's just, it got me. So there's a lot of complex emotions in here, especially from the family who gets kind of left behind, and what happens with Sally, and just the concept of waiting and wondering and not knowing. It's just, there's a lot of good stuff in this book. So I'm probably gonna give this 5 stars, but 4.5, 4.75, like it's really up there. I ended up really liking this one. Girl Made Stars, 4.5, 5 stars. Also really enjoy this one, even though it also had kind of a dark theme with rape and sexual assault in it, and complicated family emotions and very diverse representation. I also really enjoyed this one. So good. I felt a funeral in my brain. This one, I think I'm giving 4 stars. Yeah, 4.5, 4 star. I don't know. I'm still a little bit torn on this one. If I could give it somewhere between 4 and 4.5 stars, I probably would, but you might see me like holding back on a proper review until I reread it, because I do still feel like I want to reread this one. Now that I have read it once and I understand the chronology of the events, I want to reread it so that I can get a better grasp of the poetry and the meaning behind it, and just, yes. I feel like I will probably like it and understand it better the second time around, because I already enjoyed it the first time around, so the second time will probably be better for it. Like, it's still high up there. I still really enjoyed it, and I liked the queer, diverse aspects of it. I did want more from the queer aspects of it, because that was kind of such a small part of it. I just wanted a little bit more. And the grief and the like alcoholism that I did not really expect going into it. I'm prepared now for a second reading, and I wouldn't be surprised if on a second reading I end up giving this 4.5 stars. I can't give half ratings on Goodreads though, and it really irritates me, so I'll probably give it 4 stars, but just know that it's like a little bit higher than that for me. I did really like it. Like, I did. Purity by Jackson Pearce. I had some issues with it. It's like 3.5 for me. Not quite 4 stars, because I did have some issues with it. Some of the sexist stuff, it tried to be feminist and call itself out for the main character's slut-shaming and judgment of women at the very end, but it didn't do it enough. It had like 2 sentences. The impact wasn't there. And then over the course of it, there's also sexism towards the men that I don't think this book even realizes it was doing. Small ways in the beginning, and then kind of larger ways throughout the book. And then a lot of the ways, like the concept of the purity and sex, and it had some really good messages. One message I just kind of really wanted it to press home was that this is like the concept of purity, regardless of whatever it means to somebody. Choice belongs to the person. This is not for someone else to decide. So fathers making their daughters take this vow, whether or not the daughters wanted to make the vow, whether or not they were taking it seriously, didn't really matter. I kind of wanted it to be like the girl's choices. Like, it shouldn't be about pressure between, even from religion or faith. Like, yes, if your religion or faith says it, it should still be part of your choice to ascribe to that. In my opinion. Because this book was leaning towards that way, I felt like, I just felt like that would have been a really good place for it to go, especially because I felt like it was almost there. That's one of the things that was starting to bother me, was that I was like, it's the girl's decision. It's the girl's decision. Specifically, just I'm talking about girls because that's what this book for Shelby was about. It's everybody's decision what to do with their bodies, with this whole concept of purity specifically towards women and females and female assigned people. Like, I liked the book, I liked the characters, I liked the writing. I just feel like if this book had been written now, it might be a little bit different. I feel bad giving it 3 stars because it's so close to 4 stars for me. Like, the writing's so good and the characters are so good, and I did really like it from beginning to end, aside from those certain few issues. God, I wish half stars existed. So just know I'd probably give this 3.5 if I could. I don't know if I'll give it 3 stars on Goodreads or if I'll be generous and give it 4 stars. I'll probably be thinking about it while I write up the review. Sometimes certain issues weigh more heavily on my mind while I'm writing the reviews, and I sit there and I'm like, I'll be thinking about this one for a while. Just like I'll be thinking about this one for a while. Like, this one has more to do with the efforts of me reading poetry versus this one me having issues with the issues in the book. So I did not get to read Running with Lions. I still really want to read this one. I don't know when I'll get to read it, but oh, please do. I keep doing this to myself that I'm like, yeah. So I will read this one from the end of the year, but yeah. So I actually had a really great Contemporary-a-thon. Like, these were all really good books, actually. So I was pleasantly surprised. Let's put it that way. So I can't wait for the next round of Contemporary-a-thon, whenever that happens, maybe early next year. I'm there. I'm totally there because I will always be ready to read some good contemporary books, okay? I always, okay. So this video is probably going up late now because I'm a mess. This is my life. What else is new? This is my Contemporary-a-thon results. I had a really good week, and yeah. If you guys participated in Contemporary-a-thon, let me know how you did. Let me know how your week went. If you guys have a wrap-up video, let me know so I can go watch it. If you have read any of these books, let me know your thoughts down below. And if you would consider reading any of these books after my rambling thoughts on them, please let me know because I would love to discuss any of them with any of y'all. That would be lovely. And that's about it, you know? Give this video a like if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed to my awesome channel. And I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!